Hello and welcome to our Chief Diversity Officer podcast. My name is Pam Noble and I am the practice leader for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and the managing partner. Today we have the honor of working with Neddy Perez. Neddy right now is the Global Diversity Officer for McCormick, but she comes to us with over 25 years of both diversity and human resource background from various industries. She'll be able to provide us with a unique perspective of diversity, equity, inclusion. At this point in time, I'd love to welcome Neddy. Welcome.
Thank you, Pam. It's great to be on the call with you today.
Well, we're really excited about our conversation today. And I think one of the things that you and I had really spent a lot of time talking about is with the changing dynamics of the world today, it really is important that we utilize these opportunities to really educate individuals, especially those that may not have diversity officers in their business. And so use it as a way to really educate whether they're chief human resource officers or presidents and CEOs of smaller companies. So we're excited that you're joining us. But, one of the things that you and I talked about, Neddy, was the fact that everybody seems to be hiring a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. What does that mean, and how do they know that they're the right person or if the company's really ready? So as you think about that, how would you tell people to review that and make sure that they are ready to have this critical position?
I'm really excited, Pam, to see companies hiring again or creating new jobs in the diversity and inclusion space. I think it's wonderful to see that space start to get a lot more energy and attention and focus. I think that now's the right time to be looking for individuals in that space because there's so much dialogue and conversation going on about how do we acquire the right talent, how do we make sure we're driving engagement inside the organization and retaining talent, because it's not just important to find the right talent, but how are you engaging that talent? And for many of the individuals that might be out in the marketplace, and particularly recruiting Gen Z or retaining Xers in the work environment, they're looking for something more. It's not enough to get a paycheck. They're excited by that, but they want opportunities for growth, development. They want to see individuals that look like them. They want to make sure that the organizations also have a strong commitment to diversity and inclusion. And so this space is really important. But I would say there are definitely some things that companies need to think about as they're looking to create the role. So the first question I would be asking myself as a CEO or Chief Human Resources Officer is, what are the goals of the company? Where are we planning to grow? How are we planning to grow? Are there new markets and opportunities that we want to pursue that we need individuals that can bring in different perspectives? Where do we have skills gaps? What does our population look like from a representation perspective? There are tons of studies and research in the marketplace that show having a diverse population from the perspective of race, ethnicity, and or gender makes a big difference to the bottom line earnings level of an organization. It also makes a difference in the ability of an organization to stay competitive through innovation and creation of new products and processes to enhance the organization's ability to meet some of their business goals and deliver on clients' needs for the future. And so from that perspective, the primary question that senior leaders inside a corporation need to be asking is, how do we want the diversity and inclusion role to help us further retain or enhance our current business goals and objectives?
Absolutely. And you mentioned a critical word in there, which was innovation. And if you think about it, innovation really is all about diversity, whether it's, as you said, race or ethnicity or gender, but it really is about a diverse way of thinking and bringing in different cultures, mindsets, that are really critical.
You're completely correct. I think a lot of times, and this is a caveat for corporations, there's a lot of emphasis right now in the marketplace to address racism and bias in work environments and to focus on race and ethnicity and or gender. But there are a lot of other dimensions that relate to creating a diverse and inclusive work environment. A friend of mine by the name of Marilyn Loden many years ago developed a model called the Loden model, and it focuses on the dimensions of differences. Not only has to do with the physical elements that we might encounter, but the things that are not seen. And these are things like the way we think about things, how we process information, how we communicate, how we contribute, introvert versus extrovert in meetings. Those are all other dimensions of diversity and inclusion. And so it's really important when organizations are looking to build out their diversity and inclusion and equity strategies that they think about not just the visible differences that might exist that can help create a more inclusive environment, but also to think about those dimensions of differences that may not be seen, because that may have an impact on the organization that's equally as great in being able to feel like you're part of an organization where you're valued, where you can express your ideas and that they'll be accepted, or where you can challenge existing ideas and initiatives. So I think it's really important for organizations to recognize that there's a lot of emphasis that's happened over the last 15, 20 years around the visible differences, that there is another layer of inclusion deals with those differences that we don't see but are equally critical.
Now, we've talked a little bit about what companies need to think about before they implement diversity, equity, and inclusion in their organization. As you step back, and as somebody who's been a practitioner for many years, what would you say are the critical skills and abilities that are required for a role like this?
To me, to be able to lead a diversity function, you need to have a really good understanding of business strategy, know how to connect the dots, and be able to understand where is the organization going, what's important in terms of market that the organization is trying to expand into, what are the skills gaps that the organization might need to find and address in order to grow and expand their service offerings, or to be able to drive innovation in the organization. So that piece of really getting grounded in the strategy of the organization is critical. The other areas that I think are equally as important are having a good foundation of human resources. A lot of the work around diversity and inclusion is about trying to affect systematic change in the organization with regards to the levers around talent acquisition, employee engagement, the culture, the core culture of the organization, and retention, promotion, and advancement opportunities. So understanding what are the critical touch points where decisions are being made on who gets selected, who gets promoted, for what assignments is really important. Because if you're looking to create an inclusive environment, you want to make sure that those areas of decision making where talent is going to grow and be developed for future roles in the organization are as fair as possible. And so that requires a lot of discussion and conversations. Selecting individuals to come into the company is equally critical, right? Because you want to make sure you're hiring people from the markets you're going to grow into, or to fill the gaps of the skill sets that you might be missing out on. So business strategy, human resources, understanding, I think those are critical.
Neddy, I'd like to thank you for participating today. This was very informative, and this is one of the reasons that you are so sought after for advice and counsel on this particular area. So again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pam. It's been really great connecting with you, and I look forward to staying in touch.